In this video, we're going to talk about Git and GitHub and source control. More importantly, Git and GitHub is used by most professional companies, and it is a skill that is expected to be known by all developers now. One of the first things most developers have to do on their first day at the job is to submit something called a pull request, which uses Git and GitHub. We'll get through that in this section. Don't worry. You're going to learn all of this, and it's going to make sense. Let's first start with source control. Up until now, we have only worked on small files. No team members, just ourselves, just a couple of files. But in real life, you're most likely not the only developer on a team. Most likely the projects are huge. There's many files. Source control allows us to make sure that multiple people can work on the same file from different locations. Think of it as Google Docs that allows people to collaborate on one document. But enough talk, let's actually check it out. I have over here set up two folders. One is for myself, Andrei, who just started a new job at X company. And I have Marcy here, who has been working at the company for a while, and she has project files over here. Now, without Git or GitHub, what I can do is just copy and paste these files. So I have whatever Marcy has, and we can start working on these files. I can have my developer environment here with my terminal and my Sublime text, and I can work on whatever changes that need to be made on the app. And Marcy over here also has her own version where she can work on it. And we're both working on the same project. But let's say that both Marcy and I are working on this project, and she decides to change the project name from gradient background to super background. And at the same time, in my project, I decide to call this cool background. Well, now you'll have to set up a meeting between myself and Marcy and decide how we should change the code. And this is a small example, but you can imagine that as different programmers work together, there's always going to be this issue of one person changing one thing and another person changing another thing. This is where source control came in. And source control is a way to control this, where we have one place instead of our own computers. In this case, it's just represented by the folder that I have in here. Instead of each of us having a copy of the project, with source control, we have a copy of the project, but there is a centralized location up somewhere, maybe owned by the company or somewhere on the internet, that has the ultimate version that we each talk to make sure that we each have the same version. Git and GitHub is a way to do this, to be able to use source control. And as a matter of fact, it's the de facto way of doing this. So like I said before, this is most likely the tool you'll be using every single day at your workplace. So if I go to the GitHub website here, what it allows us to do is it's a central place that both Andrei and Marcy can talk to. So even though we work on the same files, the same project, I can ask this central location, such as GitHub, hey, has Marcy made any changes? And Marcy can ask, hey, has Andrei made any changes? And every once in a while, you'll get something like this where we have cool background and super background, where we have something called a merge conflict. What GitHub allows us to do is say, hey, I noticed there's a merge conflict. I see that you guys have both changed your background. I don't know who's right, but here's the information. Andrei and Marcy, can you guys talk amongst yourself and figure it out? That's pretty much the workflow. So let's actually see what this looks like. The first thing we want to do is set up a GitHub account. If you haven't done it, you absolutely should start a GitHub account. It's free. And like I said before, if you're a developer, you just need to have it. It's where everybody puts their projects. It's where you work. You'll be spending a lot of time on this website. You might remember that when we had the GitHub project, I also told you to get GitHub for desktop. Although we use that to make things simpler during that video, this is actually not the recommended way of doing it. It allows you to visually see and interact with GitHub, but it's kind of looked down upon by employers, and most people use the terminal or the command prompt to actually do this. So I won't be teaching you this way just because I think it's bad practice and getting used to the terminal is important. I'm going to close that and we're going to get this started. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on Start a Project. And here we're going to call it whatever we want. We'll call it Background Generator. And you also want to leave it as public, and we want to click on Initialize this with a README. And we'll click Create Repository. And what that does, well, we've created a new project on GitHub. And here, the README, which is just a file that describes your project, you can see that it's here. We can type into the README whatever we want and it'll describe our project. But let's go back. If Marcy, let's say Marcy has been working at this company for a long time. I'm actually going to remove my files here. Marcy has been working at this company for a long time, and the employer finally decided, hey, we need to use GitHub. We're going to hire this new guy, Andrei. We want to make sure that you both can work on it, on the project together without any issues. Can you put the project up on GitHub? So what Marcy will do is she will go to GitHub, create background generator, and then she's going to click right over here to clone or download. And she's going to make sure it says use HTTPS. And from here, you just click on this button, which copies this link to your keyboard. Then Marcy goes to her terminal. And right now we're in Documents. We want to have the project in the Marcy folder. So I'll cd into Marcy. If I click ls, I see that, yep, I have my files. Now, the first command that we're going to learn is called git clone, and then copy and paste what we copied from the website. We're just saying, hey, clone this project from github.com. So I press enter, and there you go. Everything is downloaded. If I go back to the folder now, I see that I have background generator. If I double click this, you'll see that I have a .git folder here that's actually hidden. You might not even see it on your laptop if you don't have this feature on your computer enabled. But this .git now allows me to communicate with GitHub. So what we can do now, Marcy can copy and paste these files and put it into background generator. Now let me show you the next git command. Marcy right now, if we see, she's in her folder, but now we need to go into background generator, because if we do any git commands here, well, it won't work because it's not a git project. We need to actually go inside of the project that was created on GitHub. So I'm going to cd into that directory. Notice here, I have my terminal set so that it actually shows me what GitHub location I'm in, and I'll explain what master means later. Now that we're here, we can look at all our files. Yep, I see that now I have my README, which I created on GitHub, plus the files that I copy and pasted. We need to sync this so that if I go into my background generator, instead of the README files, Marcy can put up her files on GitHub. The way we do that is our second command, git status. It tells us that we have untracked files. That is, we have index.html, script.js, and style that are untracked. And it says use git add file to include what will be committed. So now that we see our status of what we have in our folder, we can say git add and the file name. So I can do index.html, git add script.js, and git add style.css. Let's clear this so we can see it. And now I can do git status again just to see what our status is. And now I have your branch is up to date, changes to be committed. You see that now with add, we've said, hey, we want to add these changes. we have new files that we've added and says to be committed. So the second step is to do something called git commit. And git commit says, hey, I'm committing that these are the changes that I want to make to GitHub. And it allows you to pass a message so that on GitHub, it'll show the message. When Andrei comes back in, he can say, oh, Marcy added these files and this is the message. And we do that by doing this. And within here, within the double quotes, I can say adding, starting project. Close the bracket, press enter. I'm going to clear this. Now there's one last step. We did git add to add our changes, then git commit to commit and say, yeah, we're locking in those changes. And then finally, we need to let github.com know that these are the changes. So we do git push. And there you go. It has now been pushed to this repository. So if I go back and I refresh, look at that. It's the same thing that we did when we put up our first website online, but instead of using the desktop version of GitHub, we use the command line. And now we have our project, which is very good. Now let's go back to our example. So Marcy has been working on this project. There's a Git repository, and I just joined the company, and now I need to start working on this. What do I do? Now I need to access GitHub and get the copy of background generator. The way I do that, well, I go into my folder and I do the same thing. I do git clone, and then I copy and paste the repository just like before. Git clone and clone the repo. And there you go. If I go back to my folder, look at that. I have background generator. So we're both working now on background generator, but not off of each other's files. We're working with whatever version is on GitHub. All right, so now more realistic. We go back to working, and on the first day of my job, I say, I'm going to change the gradient background title, actually the H1 tag, to cool generator. If I save this and I do git status, oh, well, I'm not in a Git repository right now. If you remember, I have to go into background generator. Let me open that up a bit so you can see. There you go. Again, these Git commands won't work if you're not in a folder that has the .git folder. So let me do that. CD into background generator. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to say git status. And look at that. It tells me that I've modified index.html file. And if we remember, I will say git add. I only have one file. I can do index.html. But if I had multiple files and I want to just commit all of them at once, I can just do the period. So I'll do that, and then git commit, and I'll add a message changing title. I press enter. I'm going to clear this. Okay, and again, I do git push, and it looks like everything went through. So let's open that up and check it out. I now refresh here, and well, we haven't seen any changes, but we now see that we have 3 commits. We have the initial commit, the adding background project that Marcy did, and it shows you all the files that were added. And if I go back, I have the changing title commit. And now I see that, yeah, Andrei just changed the background generator, which is in red, to cool generator. So as you can see, we have a history of all the changes, and we can always go back if there's any mistakes. But there's one issue right now. If I go back to the code and I go to Marcy's computer, I see that, well, she still has background generator here. Why is that? Well, because her computer doesn't know that GitHub has been updated. The next command I'm going to show you, this is the last one I'm going to show you in this video, is git pull. So remember, git push to push the changes to github.com and git pull to pull whatever's the latest. So I do git pull, and there you go. You see over here that it shows me that index.html file was changed. Now you see that my title has been changed to cool generator. Let's just say that Marcy saw my first change and she really likes how I've added cool generator, but I think she wants to make it capitalized. Again, she's going to save that. She's going to say git status. All right, I have my index.html file, git add, then git commit, and I'll add the message capitalize title, and then git push. There you go. Again, I go back, I refresh, and now there's 4 commits, and we see that capitalized title is the new changes. The first day of work is done. I come into the next day of work, and well, I want to start with whatever the latest project is of background generator. And let's say Marcy worked all night to change that title to cool capitalized. I want to make sure that I have the most updated version. So what I do is when I get into work in the morning, I'll say, well, I want to make sure that if there's any changes that Marcy made, I know about them. So I'm going to say git pull, and notice here how the title's going to change after I do the pull. And now I click to Sublime Text, and there you go, cool generator. All right, we're going to expand on this and show you what happens if both Marcy and Andrei make the same changes. What does GitHub do? Welcome back. Let's continue to talk about a more advanced workflow in Git and Github. Now, up to this point, both Marcy and I have just been working on, over here, branch master. What does that mean? Well, it says branches, but I only see master here. And you might have noticed one issue with the way that we were doing things. That is, if it's my first day on the job and I just changed the title, but maybe we didn't even want that change. Maybe that breaks our branding or breaks our app. But I was able to do it so easily to change it into master. Maybe Marcy didn't even know that I've added that change. And that's a big problem, right? You don't want to put things into what we call production, into what the user sees, if it's going to break our website. If you're a big company like Facebook, that could mean millions of dollars in lost revenue, even if you have a bug that lasts a few hours. So I'm going to show you a more realistic workflow that you'll have, and that is with branching. Let me show you what I mean. I have over here a visual of what Git is really good at. Up until now, we've been working on what we call master. That is the master branch. Think of the master branch as the authority. This is the right way that our app or our website should look. And up until now, when I added the cool background title, well, I went from background generator to cool generator. And then when Marcy changed it to capitalized letters, then we went to here. And we just went in a linear fashion from one end to the other, to the other, to the other. But like I said, that is a bit of a problem. So a better thing to do is what we call branching. If I wanted to change the title, I will create a branch and just call it little feature, for example. And I just work on that branch on my own without affecting the master branch, what the user sees. And only when it's finished, when Marcy has reviewed it, when we have tested it and everybody on the team's okay, then we bring it back into master. And you can see over here with the big feature, you can keep going for a long time on your own branch. And only when you're done, do what we call merge into master. I'm going to show you how that works today. I'm going to close this and remember our example. We have Marcy's computer here with all the files, and we have my computer here with all the files. We both have our workstation set up. And now you see what master in my terminal means. And I'll show you in the notes afterwards how you can have this set up so it tells you what branch you're on. But we can see that we're both on master, that's my computer, and Marcy's computer is also on master. We want to make sure that we're both up to date with the latest GitHub. So Marcy's going to do git pull, and I'm also going to do git pull. And let's say that I'm now working on a new feature. And because it's a better workflow not to work on master, and this is a good tip generally, don't work on master, always branch off. If I do git branch, it'll show me that, well, I only have one branch, and that is master, but we can add to it. We can say git branch new or little feature. And now if I do git branch, I see that I have little feature, but master is highlighted because I'm currently on master. So the way I would go to the little feature branch, I'll say git checkout little feature. And there you go, switch to branch little feature. And now I'm on little feature branch. So what I've done is I've branched off of master and now created little feature. Let's create a bit of a change. I'm going to say in the little feature, we're going to change the current CSS background title to say, this is the background. I'm going to save here. And again, I do my simple workflow that we did in the last video. Git status. I see that, yep, we have the index.html change. Going to clear so we can see. So now that we've made this change, let's do git add. And again, just git status to make sure everything went through. Yeah, we're ready to commit index.html. So we'll do git commit. Message will be changing text. Perfect. Let's clear that. And now, again, in order to let GitHub know of the changes, we need to do git push. So we'll do git push. All right. Let's go to GitHub and see what happened. We see that now we have this yellow bar that just showed up and says you recently pushed branches. So if I click on this green button here, compare pull request, it shows me what changes I have, which is I've changed the title. And here I can let Marcy know, saying, Marcy, I've changed the text. What do you think? And I click on create pull request. And now I have my PR. And you see here how it says merge pull request. Well, if we go back to our diagram, I've created this little feature. And now I'm saying, hey, Marcy, I've just done this new change. What do you think? Is it okay for me to merge it into master? And what will happen here most likely is Marcy will come, see this pull request. You can see that we're on the pull request tabs. So she'll be able to see them and seeing, oh, Andrei just did this change. She'll look through the changes and she'll say, well, if she likes this, she could be like, looks good. She can click on start a review. And you know what? She likes this, so she's just going to approve. Now, Marcy or myself, usually you don't want to merge your own pull request. Somebody on the team does it. Can now just say merge pull request. Confirm merge. And there you go. Some teams like deleting the branch afterwards, so you can just click delete here. If I go back to the code, well, I don't have the branches anymore because I just deleted it. But in my master, if I go to index.html, I see this is the background. So now Marcy can go to her project and say git pull. And again, she has the latest update. Now let's talk about some conflicts that can arise. Now let's say Marcy wants to change something, and I also change the same thing, and we get a merge conflict. Let's see what happens. So let's say Marcy wants to create a new feature saying, we'll call this one big feature. And she'll say git checkout or git branch big feature. She'll say git checkout big feature. And if I do git branch, we see that, yep, there's a new branch here. Let's clear that. And she'll say here that she wants to change this back to background color or background generator because all the users are complaining that the title changed and they like the old title. So she's changed that. She has done the git add, git commit, reverting back to old title. Perfect. And then she's going to do git push. Oh, let's clear that first actually. And we do git push. The first time you get this, you might get this error saying that there's no upstream. You just copy the code that they give you here. Perfect. Now if I go back to background generator, I see the big feature pull request over here. And just to show you that you can have multiple commits, let's say Marcy decides to, oh, this is me. Marcy decides to add an exclamation point here. She can just say again, she saves this. That's clear. She'll say git add, git commit. You do this a lot, so you'll get really, really good at Git after working at a company for a while. And she'll say added exclamation. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Git commit, commit, added exclamation, and she'll do git push again. And let's go back to GitHub. If we look at the pull request, it'll actually have both of these, reverting back to old title and added exclamation. And we see over here both of the changes. Create the pull request, needs changes, Andrei. So while this pull request is out there, I decided to start a new branch called, let's just call it conflict for now. And I'll do git checkout conflict. And now in the conflict branch, I decide to change this to just completely remove the cool generator. I save that. Again, I check my status and index.html file has been changed. So while this is happening, I get Marcy to merge the pull request. So she's entered it into master. Her pull request is in. And now if I go back to my conflict and I do git status, and we have to add these. So git add, then git commit. I'll just do a short message here, just check. And now, if I go back to master, oh, I have to do git checkout master. Again, before I push my changes, I want to make sure that I have the latest version of master, so I'm not changing anything, or I won't have any conflicts. So I'll do git pull to get the latest. And now I go to git checkout conflict branch. And I can do this command, git merge master. So I'm saying merge whatever is in master into conflict. Marcy has been working on the big feature and she's merged it. So now master has the big feature branch. But I've also created another branch and I've been working on my own on the conflict branch. And the conflict branch doesn't know anything about master. So I'm saying, hey, whatever is in master right now, which includes the big feature that Marcy worked on, pull it in and make sure that there's no conflicts. So I do that, and I get conflict, merge conflict in index.html file. Now, if I actually click on Sublime Text, let me open this up so you can see it better. Oh boy, I get this weird little syntax. It's overwhelming at first, but it's easy to see what's happening. Head is where my branch is at, and it shows me that here to the end, I don't have the H1 anymore, but in the master branch, we have background generator. Now I can talk to Marcy and say, hey, Marcy, do you want to keep the background generator title? And she'll say, yes, that was the right thing to do. Don't change the background. Well, in that case, I just remove these lines and remove this and save now. If I do git status now, okay, we have the modified status here. Let me just make this smaller again so you can see. So let me clear this. What we do now is we have to do git add, again, because we made those changes. And we have to do git commit, fixing merge issue. And I forgot the M. Let's try that again. M, conflict, fixing, merge issue. Let's clear here and do git status. Nothing to commit, working tree clean. And if I do git push, well, again, I get this error, but I want to show you this time around. If I do git push origin conflict, it now works. Let's go back to GitHub. See what sort of things we have. We have the conflict branch. And if we look at the conflict branch now, well, there's nothing changed because, well, I just reverted all my changes. So it's completely empty. There's no changes now. So Marcy will be like, hey, did you mean to make this PR? It's empty. So I'll see this message on my PR and I can keep going. And that's pretty much the workflow that you'll see in Git. But you see, it's very, very nice to work with. You learn a few commands, and as long as you have this visual model of every time you're working on something, you always create a branch. You title it with whatever feature you're working on. And every once in a while, you want to pull master and merge master into your branch to make sure that you're not missing out on any updates that other developers or teammates have done. Once you're done with your feature, you make a pull request by doing git push. And that pull request, you'll add comments and people will review your file changes. And if they want you to make a few changes, then you can do again git add, git commit, finally make your changes, and then you can merge pull request. And once that's done, then everybody else on the team, there's now a new master. So everybody else on the team should do git pull as well. It does take a bit of time to get used to, but it's a really, really nice workflow to make sure that everybody on the team works on the same files, same projects, without causing any errors and making sure that everybody collaborates well. Phew, that was a lot of fun. But now I want to show you one last thing about GitHub, why everybody puts their code on GitHub and why I think you should as well. You can see over here that Andrei and Marcy have been working on this project for a while. We now have 12 commits. There's a lot of work that has been put into it. But wouldn't it be great if we had a website for it? I mean, you could get hosting, you could get a domain name, but that costs money and it also takes a bit of time. So wouldn't it be nice if on GitHub, we can just have a link here of our project and people can view it? Well, luckily for us, we have something called Github Pages. Let me show you how easy it is to set up this background generator to have a URL so people can check out the project. All we need to do is go into Settings and scroll all the way down to where it says GitHub Pages. In the source here, all we need to click is Master Branch. That is, we want the project to be built from the master branch. We know what that means already. And we just click Save. All right, that looked pretty simple. If we scroll down back to GitHub Pages, we see that we now have your site is ready to be published at this link. If I click on it, look at that. We have our project, which is a background gradient generator, published on this link. How cool is that? So now all we have to do is copy and paste this link, go back to our code, and in the description, we can just edit the description and put in check out the website. And we can just copy and paste the website link here, click Save. And now I can just click on our website. All right, let's go back. And you saw how simple that was. And that is why I think everybody, whether you're a developer working on your own projects, or even if you're working with large teams, it's great using GitHub for obviously source control, making sure that multiple people can work on the same code, and make sure that no matter how big our app gets, we are always able to work in an efficient way that allows us to build applications without any conflicting code and minimize our bugs at the same time. But it's also nice to have a portfolio of some sort of your projects, such as this background generator. And now you have a website of your project for free without having to get a domain name, without having to buy hosting, because GitHub Pages allows you to just publish your project. It'll read the index.html file, and you have a nice way to view it so you can share it with all your friends. All right, so now that you're a master of GitHub and Git and source control, go off and practice and see if you can put up a website online on GitHub Pages. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Did you enjoy the video? I make a living creating content like this for developers. You can check out the resources I talked about in the video in the description down below. Also, I teach people how to go from zero knowledge to mastery as developers in a single course. Check out the link below for the course introduction and some free video content to see if this is something that you want. As part of the course, we have a community of people just like you, thousands of them, and hope to see you in there one day.